Good morning. Sitting here wondering what could I do. Bored out of my mind. Missing school, missing my students. So I thought, well, maybe I can make another YouTube video. I know my channel's Make Your Belly Happy Barbecue, and I haven't really done a lot of barbecue stuff. Well, until the barbecue season kicks back off after this beer virus gets done, I'm just going to do some comfort foods and some foods that people can make at their house, and where you don't have to really, you probably have most of your ingredients right there on hand. So look forward to showing you what I know. I've cooked for a lot of years. I've cooked for a lot of people. I've cooked in a pub up there in West Virginia. I cooked in the Golf Hazard, and I had a great time there. Met a lot of awesome people there. I'll get back to barbecuing here shortly. We got as soon as the competition circuit kicks back on, we're going to Memphis in May to help with a great team, Will Hare and his great team. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I'm hoping I'll be cooking for some great people up there. My buddy Scott, he's still practicing. He's getting his chicken. It's on point. His ribs, to me, they're none better. So we'll get back to it. I thought I was going to be cooking about 5 butts this weekend for a friend of mine and her, she was having a birthday party, but because of the beer virus, everything's getting canceled. So, but yeah, let's get to making some biscuits and gravy this morning, and make our bellies happy. All right, got my sausage all fried up. There's not a lot of grease in there. I mean, if you need to, you can add a little bit of butter or a little olive oil. I wouldn't go too heavy with that grease. There's plenty in there if you look in that, because we're going to soak up all that grease with the flour and make a paste, and get ready here, and we'll start making our bellies happy with this not with our barbecue, but with this sausage and gravy. All right, we got our sausage all fried up here, and it's all chopped up real nice. Some people like big chunks. I like mine more fine, like fine chopped. So I got all the big chops big pieces all broken down. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of all-purpose flour. I once asked my mom, well, how much flour do you know how to put in there? And you know what she told me? Enough. So how do you know when it's enough? Well, I put a little bit, a couple tablespoons or whatever, and then I stir it around. What I'm looking for is no puddles of grease or so, and it's going to come into almost like a Play-Doh type of consistency. But see, I can still see grease in there, so I'm going to add a little more flour. And thank you, Rebecca, for my superhero homemade bowls. She did this at one of those pottery paint and take places, and I use these a lot, especially in my cooking videos. Alright, so turn my fire down a little bit, down to low, while I'm doing this mixing stuff. So what you're wanting to do is you want to make sure every piece of sausage kind of gets coated, every little bit, and you don't want to see any puddles of grease. I want all my grease soaked up, so I'm going to put just a little bit more. And for 1 pound of sausage, you're looking at probably about a half to 3/4 of a cup of flour. So that looks like that's enough. The next step here is we're going to add a little bit of milk. I usually use canned milk, but I didn't get any last time I was at the store, so I'm going to use a little bit of 2%. You use whatever milk you have, and then just enough to cover the pieces. And just keep stirring it. And I'd say with a pound of sausage, you're looking at probably, once again, probably about the same amount of milk as you did flour, half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. And then I'm going to let this get, it'll start thickening up here. So I'm going to keep stirring this. Turn my fire back up a little bit now, but you want to keep stirring it because that flour can burn on the bottom of your pan. Now, as this thickens up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water to thin it back down. but I don't know how much water to add. And this is where if you like coffee in yours, my dad would add his coffee. So, like I said, I like it that way, but that's not what I'm making today, because personally I don't drink coffee and I don't have any coffee in the camper here. So now it's starting to thicken up. If you didn't put enough flour in it, and you can see like little pools of grease forming on top of you can always mix a little bit of flour with some cold water and get it, that way it won't clump. And then you can pour that in and it'll help soak up some of this. So I've got this going on. It's starting to thicken up real good. So I'm going to add, that's not too bad right there, but I like it just a little bit thinner than that. But like I said, everybody has their own way of liking their gravy. It's basically however their granny and their grandmas and their moms made gravy for them, that's how they like it. So, alright, I'm going to add a little bit of water to that. You could add some milk, but I like to thin it out with a little bit of water. And don't worry about if you get too much, you just have to cook it down. As this cooks, it will start thickening up. If I didn't add any water, this would probably be about like Play-Doh. So, alright, that's starting to look really good. I like cooking in my cast iron. This cast iron was handed down to me from my mother, and I'm sure my dad seasoned it. This is like an almost non-stick pan pretty much. And even if it does stick, just set it down on the floor and let Bronson, he'll clean it out pretty good. Just kidding, Grandma Starcher. You know I'd never let my dogs lick after my pots and pans. She once told me I'd never eat at your house if you let your dogs lick there. God love her. Alright, how much salt? About a tablespoon, teaspoon or so. Depending on how salty you like things. I like black pepper because it gives that a little bit of a bite, but not too much where it makes it impossible to eat. So I just pretty much I don't know. I've never really measured spices. I just add them, and if it don't taste right, I add something else. But you can always add more, so go easy and light. All right, that's starting to thicken up real good. So with this quarantine, I like to tell jokes, but I guess from now on they'll have to be inside jokes. Ha ha! Laughter, laughter. I need a laugh track to put after this. So, but yeah, this gravy's starting to look down. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat way down, as low as it'll go. I don't want it burning on the bottom or sticking. But that looks pretty good. I got the biscuits cooking in the oven. Like I said, I use the Grands. Pillsbury Grands. Man, if you can't get a homemade biscuit and you're in a pinch where, especially like living here in the camper, I just don't have the counter space to make biscuits and roll them out. And just being by myself, it's just easier to go simpler. But I've found that these buttermilk frozen biscuits are probably the best biscuits on the market as far as, I'm going to add a little bit more water to that. It's getting a little bit too thick for the way I like it. Plus, if you got company coming, you can always add unexpected company. Grandma says add another cup to the soup. So add a cup of water. That makes it go that much farther. She cooked through war times, had 7 kids. Granny was the same thing. You kind of make those. I loved hearing those stories, and you got to make those concessions. The soup may have been tasted a little bit watery, but everybody got to eat. Alright, I think that's about right. I'm going to let that sit on the stove here and cook it down a little bit. And as soon as we get them biscuits out of the oven, we're going to make our bellies happy, happy, happy. I've plated my biscuits and gravy. Oh man, that looks delicious. I'm going to have one happy belly. Alright, let's check those biscuits and gravy out and see if it tastes just as good as it looks. That's one happy belly. That gum. The biscuits are nice and fluffy. Perfect salt. Texture for that gravy. Boy, you can't beat this on a cold Sunday morning or Saturday morning when, well, I guess now it's be any morning because we don't have to go to work because of the beer virus. So, cheers, and let's make our bellies happy. Now, don't forget to subscribe, comment, hit that thumbs up button for me. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. I've got more videos coming, and so maybe I'll get back to making barbecue videos too. So just give me a subscribe and a thumbs up, like, comment. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. So we'll be seeing you. And there's some people out there who need some happy bellies at this sad times. Everybody's getting kind of antsy staying in, but we got to do what we got to do to protect other people, to protect ourselves. So my daughter Samantha and my daughters Samantha and Rebecca, one of their favorite breakfasts they like from me is biscuits and gravy. So I thought I'd make a video on how to make biscuits and gravy in a cast iron skillet, just like Grandma used to do it, just like Mom used to do it. So I'm not going to make it like Dad used to do it, because Dad used to put coffee in it. I like it that way. If you like a kind of a nutty coffee flavor into your gravy, Dad learned how to do that in the Army when he was a 17, 18-year-old private working in the mess hall. So it's pretty good. Instead of putting a little bit of water, after you put a little bit of milk in it and put a little bit of water, you just pour some old coffee in it. Half a cup or so, and it just gives it a good flavor. Some people like it, some people don't. I usually make homemade biscuits, but living in a camper, it's kind of hard to do that. So I bought some Grand's frozen biscuits, and they're pretty good. They're not like Grandma made and like Mom used to make, but they're pretty good. My granny used to make great homemade biscuits, and I guess the key to a homemade biscuit is don't touch the dough too much. Is what Granny told me once, and get something sharp to cut the biscuits with. You don't want to cut it and pinch the biscuit dough down. You want to cut it with something sharp. Like my mom and Granny and Grandma, I don't know if Grandma had a biscuit cutter or not, what she used, but Granny and my mom used old mushroom cans, and they'd cut the top and the bottom out of them, and that would make a good biscuit cutter.